Hey all, welcome to my channel. I want to give a shout out to Ewan Grant. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, one of those two ways. Calling me, basically commenting basically that there was no sound in some of my videos, which I didn't realize. I apologize for that. Unfortunately, I should have basically now it shows me that I should check every time I upload if there's any issues with the video itself as well too. So with that, I'll just repeat what I was talking about a while back with one of my earlier videos, basically the discussion about Texas versus California, which one's a better place, basically comparing the benefits between living in California and Texas essentially, and what both states have to offer, and what are some of the key differences, of course, on which one before making a decision if you were to move to one of the states. Now, with California and Texas, you're moving into any state, one of the biggest things, of course, you have to look for is basically the cost of living, right? So the cost of living is a big factor to consider when choosing a place to live. California is known for being one of the most expensive states in the country, while Texas is more affordable. Now, this one I got to read actually. According to a recent study by the Council for Community and Economic Research, the cost of living in California is 31.4% higher than the national average, while the cost of living in Texas is only 10.4% higher than the national average. This means that you could expect to pay significantly less for housing, groceries, transportation, and other expenses in Texas that you would in California. I mean, let's be honest. Texas inflation hasn't affected Texas as much as compared to California, especially with the housing prices, especially with transportation, gases, because California has a higher state gas tax than Texas, and of course, food as well too plays a huge factor as well from the aspects of where you live. And then, of course, the other big factor, of course, well, one of the three factors is healthcare. Now, California has a universal healthcare system, while Texas does not. This means that all Californians are guaranteed access to healthcare, regardless of their income or employment status. Whereas in Texas, healthcare is not entirely guaranteed. You may have to pay for your own insurance. So one of the things is like in California, the healthcare system might be a little bit better than Texas, but at the same time, it's one of those things where you might have to wait in line as well too, depending on where you're at. Now, education, which of course is always the biggest thing for all parents, basically is both Texas and California have excellent public school systems. However, California's public school systems are generally considered better than Texas's, because California has a higher per pupil spending rate and schools have a higher graduation rate compared to Texas with the public school system. Private schools, they're about on par with each other, but more California has a little bit more better percentage on the private school sector as well too. And then university wise, well, let's put it this way. Texas does have some decently good colleges and universities, but California has quite a few prestigious ones. One, of course, of being Stanford, which is practically Ivy level, and then of course there's Caltech too. So those are the two big ones out there, as well as University of Irvine and LA in a ways, and Pepperdine and such basically. So versus University of Texas and such, but that's something where it's up to the students themselves at that point as well too. Now, the other biggest factor that I think everyone's going to look into is taxes. Texas does have a lower tax rate compared to state income tax rate. I'm sorry, than compared to California. The California top, I got to look at this and read this off basically. California's top marginal income tax rate is 13.3%, while in Texas there is no state income tax. However, Texas does have a higher sales tax rate than California. In California, the state sales is 7.25, while in Texas, the state sales tax is 6.25. I don't know how that's. It looks like this article screwed up, but yeah, California has a lower sales tax rate than. No, Texas has a lower sales tax rate than California, quite honestly. But and also the other aspect of property taxes. I think that's where Texas hits you, but California has that same issue, and the school state taxes is a big factor as well too. California does a higher percentage than Texas as well. So tax wise, Texas is definitely much cheaper. That's why I know corporate tax as well too. That's why you see a lot of companies like Oracle and Tesla moving towards Texas, i.e. Austin or wherever it may be, because corporate taxes is not as much compared to the ones in Texas. But then again, let's not forget California has a higher per income strata compared to Texas, where California, of course, is pretty much a third, if not a fourth, or if not a third of the country's GDP, basically. Now, housing, of course, is definitely compared between the two, Texas and California. Texas is definitely lower than California. I mean, the median home price in California is about $750,000, whereas Texas, it's about close to $250,000. So let's say a property in LA or San Francisco for that matter, 2-bedroom house, 2,000 square feet, it's probably going to be $1.3 million. Whereas the same house in Texas, let's say in Dallas, well, actually not Dallas, let's say in San Antonio or Houston, is probably going to be close to like 500,000. Actually, I shouldn't say San Antonio, but in Dallas or Houston, it's probably going to be $500,000. So half, or if not less than that. So you can get a lot more money from in Texas when it comes to housing. Austin, that's changing, I think, in this situation. 10 years ago, it was a whole different story. Yes, Austin, you could get a lot more property with the money you were spending. Nowadays, it's going back up. So it's coming close to New York. It's the average median house price in Austin itself, basically, is about close to like in that range of 750,000, like California, basically. One of the other factors as well too is homelessness. That's a big thing. So basically, California itself, compared to Texas, is much higher in percentage with homelessness. According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD in this case, there are over 150,000 in California that are homeless versus 50,000 that are probably homeless in Texas. Why that is, I think it's more for the fact of, like, with California, they do have better climate because of that. And so people have a tendency to go stay out there because the fact is like better climate. You're not going to have to deal with the harsh weathers compared to, like, let's say New York with the harsh winter, or the southern states with the hurricane and rain and such. Texas does have hurricanes every now and then, but not as much, which leads also to the fact of weather as well too. California is kind of, especially Southern California, has more of a Mediterranean climate, where it has warm, dry summers and mild and wet winters, whereas Texas has a humid subtropical climate with hot, humid summers and mild winters, to say the least. I mean, there are cases where it doesn't snow as much in Texas, but it does still snow, or ice at least over there. And when it gets hot, it gets hot. California, depending where you are in the state, of course, Northern California does contain, a large portion of the four seasons, almost the four seasons. I mean, there are some parts where it doesn't snow, and there are some parts where it does snow. But lots of rain. Rain is not as much, though, considerably compared to all the other parts of the country. But as of recently, of course, that's all changing, it seems like. And the same thing is like in California, Southern California, specifically Southern California, more inland towards the eastern side, you can have longer, larger winters compared to Texas. And of course, when it comes to politics, well, let's put it this way. Texas is definitely more conservative, while California is more liberal in general. This means that you'll find more liberal political atmosphere in California than in Texas. You'll see, if put it this way, if you are a conservative, it's better to live in Texas. If you're a liberal, live in California. However, there are pockets in California and Texas where it goes against the norm. Like in California, Orange County, like towns of Newport Beach and Huntington Beach, more conservative. In Texas, Austin, definitely more liberal. But more often, here's the thing. If it comes down to the fact of for the two biggest agendas at this point, or moral agendas, basically, when it comes to gun control and abortion, depending on your viewpoint and stance, if you're more for more gun control and pro-choice, California is the state for you. More for the Second Amendment, as well as more for pro-life, Texas is the place for you, basically. So those are the two biggest factors. Also, the other factor is, let's not forget this, with politics. Um, when it comes to illegals, California happens to be more liberal towards migrant workers from Mexico and southern South America and Latin America, whereas Texas not so much as well too. Now the quality of life between the two, it can vary depending on your preference or such, but California is generally considered a much more higher quality of life than Texas, because one aspect is California has a more diverse economy. As I said, it's like pretty much a third, practically a third of the country's GDP, maybe then some. And it also definitely has a more vibrant culture and more beautiful landscape. Meaning, the landscape part, you'll see more beaches, more mountains, more land, more than anything else, compared to Texas, where you won't see as many beaches or mountains for that matter. You definitely won't see mountains, whereas you see that in California. So you'll see, if you want to go skiing, you're not going to do that in Texas. In California, you can still do that. You want to go to the beaches? Well, California's all pretty much the entire, the western coast, all beaches. Texas, parts of it basically. If you want to see the desert, California does have deserts. So does Texas, of course. Although Texas is mostly known for like desert, what you would think is more desert and ranches, cows, farming and such. Whereas California, you don't see that as much. But in reality, there are still farmlands and out there and all that stuff. And that's the other factor as well too when it comes to the economy. You'll see a lot more tech related as biotech related, and as well as entertainment, more in California than in Texas. I mean, in Texas, of course, you do have the oil boom as well as oil and such, and also commercial and real estate development in Texas. And more of electronics like Texas Instruments and Hewlett Packard and such. I mean, they've all moved down there in ways as well too. The semiconductors is where Silicon Valley is, of course, as you've seen. Now, when it comes to traffic and such, it's a whole different beast altogether. Like California, you're gonna have traffic no matter what. If you're not used to traffic, California is not the place for you. Texas, I don't think there's as much traffic, but it's still not. It's still not as much compared to California. The other factor is California in the past, of course, for the past 15 years, had a higher air pollution rate than Texas. However, now the thing is like California is also known to be a state that's predominantly mostly EV, or going towards more EV than the rest of the country, basically. So you'll see a lot more EV vehicles in California compared to Texas. And it's going to be interesting to see how Texas goes out, or the fact that Tesla's moved down there. Will Texas adopt the EV aspect of things more than anything else? I don't think the infrastructure is there for Texas, because it's all, again, it's more oil based down there more than anything else. But at the same time, I think if Texas can adopt the EV aspect, then the quality goes up even more at that point as well too. Now, when it comes to opportunities, of course, they both have a lot to offer, basically, for people of all ages and backgrounds. However, California is considered to have more opportunities than Texas. This is because California has a larger economy, as I mentioned, and a more diverse population. So California compared to Texas, at least you'll see a large portion of the globe represented in California compared to Texas. Of course, California compared to New York, I think New York has a much, much larger, vibrant culture than California itself, and a more globalized culture as well too. Although, at least comparing California to Texas, California has a much more globalized culture. That's why you'll see a lot more cuisines that you probably wouldn't see much in Texas compared to California. Oh, well, depending on where California as well too. Let's not forget that. Now, which state is right for you? It depends on your individual needs and preferences. If you're looking for a state with low cost of living, great weather, and strong economy, then Texas is probably the right choice for you. If you're looking for a state with diverse population, a vibrant culture, and a lot of opportunities, California is probably a better choice for you as well too. With that, I want to thank you for watching and hope this video was helpful. If you do have any comments, please leave them in the comment section. I do read them, as I mentioned earlier, where I didn't realize some of my videos were muted. So please leave comments in the comment, leave some feedback. If you agree or disagree, you're welcome to put that in the comment section between the two states, and it's just between these two states. You could put all the states in place as well too. I'm not going to disagree or agree. It's up to you. But with that, I'll leave it at that. And if you enjoy my videos, my content, and my channel, and you haven't subscribed, I ask that you please subscribe. If you hate my videos or find it despising but still watch them and want to watch them, and you haven't subscribed, I also ask you to subscribe as well too. But with that, I'll leave it at that. Unfiltered, unedited, and usually unrehearsed. But in this case, there was a case where I had to like grab some pieces of snippets of information, basically, which I did have to read off of to give you actual facts. But with that, I'll leave it at that. Until next time.